Hello, beautiful people. So, my voice going out already on me. So, it's been a while since I shared my first video, just coming into YouTube because I feel like God is leading me to open my mouth and speak more about, my testimony, about just the revelations that He gives me, all of the things. So anywho, for a minute, pretty much since prior to him leading me to start the first video, I knew one of the videos that I needed to share was just my journey of counseling. I was going to say, many of you may not know, but nobody probably knows that's on my YouTube, that I am a professional counselor, but it didn't come just like that. And I think my story is worth sharing, because it's a testament to just, I guess, following the leading of the Holy Spirit, even when you don't realize that He's, driving us. And it's so crazy because technically right now I'm supposed to be in a session, but my intake didn't show up. Hence why I got on a business casual outfit. But yeah, they didn't show up, but I can't help but think that this is God as well, because the past few days, I feel like He's been pressing me to put this video out. And yesterday I was like, okay, I'm going to do it today. Went outside and everything. I was outside with my son and my husband while my husband was training my son. But I ended up just kind of working out with them and watching my son and not ever doing the video. Then I got home and I fell asleep. So today it's not strange that I woke up this morning thinking about the video and then my 10 o'clock didn't show up. So here I am. I said, okay, there's no way I can't do this video right now. It's got to be a reason. So anywho, now we're about to get into it. And it's going to probably sound like it's all over the place, but try to follow me. And hopefully this isn't too long because I am a rambler, but I'm going to try to condense it as best as I can while still, keeping the good things in that might be helpful for someone. So when I was in high school, I'm not even going to start from, early in my years, because that's a whole lot to, try to talk about. But, well, I guess ever since I was little, I wanted to be a doctor. I used to say I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pediatrician, work with kids, all of those good things. I know when I was in elementary school, probably for like a year or so, I wanted to be a teacher, but mainly I wanted to be a doctor. So going through grade school, I didn't think anything else about it. I'm going to be a doctor. I didn't think about what it would take to be a doctor outside of just keep on going to school. You know what I mean? The older I got, I still had the desire to be a doctor, but I wasn't necessarily preparing to be a doctor. Well, I won't say that, because in grade school, I was making grades and all of that stuff. Now, we're making good grades. Now, when I got to middle school, I kind of played around a little bit, and not really played around, but it was more so I was just going through things related to like peer relationships and stuff like that. Drama, middle school drama, the typical stuff. So after a while, and like in hindsight, I was dealing with self-esteem issues because I felt like, okay, I'm too smart to fit in with the cool kids. So I'm not even going to try so hard in school. So that caused my grades to slip because now I'm trying to be who I'm not, essentially. But ultimately, I still was in honors classes and stuff. I just didn't care as much. But then when I got to high school, I'm like, okay, it's new. It's a new year. It's a new time. So I started doing what I needed to do in high school. And, of course, my dream to be a doctor was still there. So fast forward senior year, or probably junior year. Around junior years when I was like, I was really thinking about colleges, and I used to want to go to a college outside of the state because I'm in South Carolina. But as I got older, I realized you get more money if you stay in state. So I really wanted to go to College of Charleston. I knew MUSC, a big medical university, was in Charleston. Why not go to College of Charleston, which is like right there? They might be affiliated with each other. That'd be a good school to go to, get my undergrad degree in, da 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 da. So that's what happened. I ended up applying to College of Charleston. I applied to some other schools. I applied to USC, Winthrop. I didn't really want to go there. I just applied there. And I applied to USC Upstate. Didn't really want to go there either. I just applied. Crazy story. I got accepted into USC and I wouldn't have had to pay a thing. But because USC was in Columbia, I had family in Columbia. I always was in Columbia. I was like, I don't want to go to school there. So I chose to go to College of Charleston because that was my dream from jump. Well, I went to College of Charleston, and guess what I did? I partied. I partied and I partied and I partied. And it's kind of interesting to look back on it because the other day I read a letter, like my personal statement. And in my personal statement, I was talking about how, I was talking about the goodness of God and all of these things because, I believed in God. I had strong faith in all of these things and I wanted to live for him. But I think just knowing who I am today, a lot of my faith was built on religion and not relationship. So I knew about God. I knew all of these things. I knew the perfect answer and the things to say because I grew up in the church. I've been going to church since I was a baby. Sometimes 3-4 nights out the week, we were always in church. So I realized a lot of what I was saying and a lot of what I was doing was from that standpoint and not truly from like I said, a relationship standpoint of really knowing God. So I just wanted to throw that little part out there. So anyway, so in my personal statement, I was saying all of these things about that, but I also made a comment about, College of Charleston being a party school and, a part of my what I felt my duty was, in a sense, was when I go to school to show others my age, like it's not about partying. We got to do what we got to do so we can be who we need to be for the people coming up after us. All that cute stuff. But then I get there and guess what happens? I did too much. I was partying from Thursday to Sunday, partying. Barely going to church, except for when I went home on the weekend. Like if I went home on the weekends, I'd definitely be in church when I went home. But even that started to kind of fade away. Like my dad was big on you going to church. But I don't know if he kind of let up a little bit after I went off to college and was coming back home. Because some nights I would stay, even when I would come home, I would stay out so late on Saturday night that I ended up not going to church on Sunday because I had a hangover. Yeah, I know. That was rare that it happened, but I remember specifically one time it was so bad that I ended up in the hospital from alcohol poisoning, and that's why I missed church. That was a whole thing. But anyway, I'm just trying to share a little bit of this backstory to see where I've come from and how God is still in the midst of all of this. So anywho, as I was going to College of Charleston, I'm after freshman year, party, not really caring. I'm just having fun. I would go to the library and study. I would try to join little study groups here and there, but the majority of my freshman year was partying. It wasn't studying. And I remember being in a biology class. Everybody that I won't say everybody, but probably 60-70% of people that go to College of Charleston, they're like, I will be a doctor. I'm doing pre-med. So they had like specific biology classes that you would take as a freshman. Instead of 101, you would take like 111. That's, I guess, a more extensive biology course if you're going the pre-med route. Didn't really care about the class, like just little stuff looking back on, like, why didn't I care? But I also get that all things work together for good. So anywho, I after my freshman year, I didn't really want to be there anymore. Like I started to not want to be at College of Charleston. I was like, I don't even think I want to be in college anymore. Mind you, like, think about all that I went through, like, and I say think about, but you weren't in my brain, you weren't in my life. But, just think of someone that had all of these dreams to be a doctor. They just knew they wanted to go to College of Charleston. They were so ready to conquer the world, and help children with cancer, because that's the direction that I wanted to go in. Like, I literally used to watch St. Jude infomercials all the time and see the little kids with neuroblastoma, and I was like, I'm going to help children with neuroblastoma. So anywho, went through all of that to get into College of Charleston, only to get to College of Charleston and then not want to be there anymore. So I went through the first semester of my sophomore year, but I was already like, I'm not staying past this first semester because I had already started it, so I had to finish it out. I got out, and little did I know, I was pretty much on probation anyway, because after December, after I chose not to go back, I ended up finding a letter that said that I was on probation, and that I was going to be basically kicked out of school if I didn't bring my grades up. So it's crazy that in my mind, I didn't want to be there anymore, but they was already about to kick me out anyway because I wasn't doing what I needed to do. So anyway, go home, still trying to force something that wasn't there. So I was going to like a local college in my area just to take up some classes and do something while I was working at TJ Maxx. Shout out to TJ Maxx. That's my little store. And even with that, I wasn't fully in it. So I dropped out of that. I just stopped going to classes, and that was it. But now let me go back really quick. When I was at College of Charleston, my freshman year, yes, I played around and I partied, but I also, in a sense, I was responsible, and I still, I was still a good person at heart, and I really wanted to volunteer. So my freshman year, I started volunteering for the suicide prevention hotline. I was just there, and like, I just enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like, I volunteer for it. I feel like, oh, this is a good volunteer opportunity. I can help those that, are contemplating suicide. I don't even know if you can say that on here, but, hopefully they don't flag my video. And, I really enjoyed it because I feel like I was making a difference. It was interesting, though, because all of the people around me were there because they wanted to be counselors. And I was like, oh, that's cool. This is a good little volunteer opportunity for you. You want to be a counselor? Okay. But in my mind, I'm thinking, that's what y'all want to do. I'm just here. I want to be a doctor, but, I want to do this too. So keep that in mind. So I left, came back, went back to volunteering and all of that good stuff. And when I went back to College of Charleston, I don't know if I even said this part, but I chose to go back. After I sat out for about a year, I realized my heart wasn't home. My heart really was, I need to be in school somewhere because I'm just kind of letting my life pass me by. Y'all remember that commercial? Sitting around letting your life pass you by. But anyway, that's pretty much what I was doing. So I went back to school, and now I got my head on straight. Now I'm like literally doing what I need to do, studying all of the things. I even made school work where from 9 to 5, is literally school hours. It's literally work. So if I'm not in class, I'm not picking up my phone. I'm not on social media. I'm not just doing whatever I want to do. If I'm not in class, I'm going to the library and I'm doing something productive with my time so I can work. Now, of course, I'll grab me some breakfast, or if I ate breakfast, because I'm not a huge breakfast person like that. I'll have me a little lunch break, all of that stuff. But I made sure to eliminate distractions. Now, after 5, if I'm still studying, now I got a little more playtime and I can, pull out my phone or whatnot and scroll if I want. But I've gotten through the day making sure I was getting my work done, studying, all that good stuff. So anywho, fast forward, and, I'm still volunteering at the hotline. Eventually, volunteering at the hotline leads to a part-time job. They allow me to work part-time, which is pretty much the same thing. The only difference is now I have to work at least one overnight shift a week, because there's a 24-hour crisis prevention hotline. And yeah, so that's really the only difference once I became part-time. And then obviously I'm getting paid for it, but I'm not looking at it like that because I enjoyed it. But then, when I went back, I'm also taking classes more that interest me. I'm not taking classes specific to being a doctor. I'm taking classes that just seem interesting. And I started gravitating towards psychology and sociology classes. And then I also just took a lot of Spanish classes just because I like Spanish and I wanted to, have that. Took a lot of African American studies classes because I like that. I was just taking all of these classes. And eventually it was like, okay, I guess I got to choose a major, because one of these things I'm going to have the most hours in order to get a degree. So I ultimately chose sociology because by that point I had the most classes in sociology. So probably my junior year is when I've committed to sociology. But I'm still taking those other classes. Now, I'm still not thinking about being a counselor. I'm working at a after-school program. I'm working at the suicide prevention hotline. I'm doing all of these things that are just, I love working with kids. I loved, all of the things. So when I was working at the after-school program, honestly, in my heart, I wanted to move up in that. I wanted to be a assistant director. I wanted to be the site coordinator. I wanted to be the director. I wanted to start my own thing. Like all of these things, I wanted to move up in that because I really enjoyed it. And the crazy thing is, as much experience as I had working with children and working in youth programs, youth summer camps, all of that stuff, since I was 16, mind you, by this point, I'm like, 21, 22. There was an opportunity for me. I was a lead counselor. I was pretty much the lead counselor of the clan. And they came up with a new position for me to be a lead counselor. And I was pretty much like planning out all of the centers and all of that stuff. But because one of my coworkers' mom worked in the head department, she pretty much gave the position to her daughter. Her daughter wasn't doing the lead counselor stuff, but she was getting paid for it. Meanwhile, I'm essentially doing the work and not getting paid. I'm still getting paid like a regular counselor. So that caused a lot of disappointment, frustration. It really sucked because I was close to the girl that who ended up getting that position, and it caused a rift in our relationship. But then there was also an opportunity at the school next to the school that I worked at where the director was looking for an assistant director, and she wanted me to be her assistant director. That fell apart. And I'm like, how are all of these things that I know I'm fully qualified to do, how are these things not working out? Like, what in the world is going on? So I started to get discouraged, but I just kept doing what I was doing. I think eventually I ended up not working. I ended up getting another job and slowly was kind of fading away from the after school program, simply because I had this other job and I was starting to really like it. So I ended up getting a job where I was pretty much working as a behavioral interventionist for at-risk children. So what a behavior interventionist is basically, and in this particular position, it was wraparound services. So that meant I literally went to the client, to their house. I could take the client wherever I wanted to take them, as long as I'm working on their goals that were set out by the actual counselor that did a assessment on them prior to me coming in. So I would work with them on things like anger management, coping skills, like emotional regulation. I would even do family support with the families, helping the parents come up with behavior systems for the kids, like all kind of stuff. Now I want y'all to follow how this stuff is flowing. So I'm doing these things, and I had one particular client. She was in foster care. She was living with someone through foster care. And I remember she went to this program, this day treatment center program. And it was basically a mental health facility, but instead of it being an overnight thing, she was only there Monday through Friday from 8 to 3. It was kind of like the school, but they only had an hour of school. The primary focus there was focusing on, emotional issues, behavior issues, all of that good stuff. So I used to pick her up after she would get out some days, because I had I think probably about 10 hours a week with her. So I would pick her up a lot. And then, we would do our thing. Then I'd take her back home. And I remember thinking, and I even said, man, I want to work here one day. I would love to work here. Fast forward, I just so happened, and this is a MUSC program. Let me throw this part out there, because remember when I was talking about me going to College of Charleston, I wanted to go to MUSC. This is a program through MUSC. It's the Star Treatment Day Center at MUSC. And I was saying, I want to work there. Lo and behold, at a certain point, when I no longer was working for the after school program, because by this time I kind of transitioned away from that because my after school hours were starting to fill up with my other job, I started to, I just randomly went online, right? I went online on the MUSC website to see if they had any positions available, just to kind of see, what they had going on. Because I also, had part-time jobs working in doctor's offices and stuff like that, working in the front office, and working in billing and all of that stuff. So I had a lot of experience in the medical field as well. So it was a lot of stuff that I would be willing to do at MUSC. Tell me why I go on there and they have a position available for a clinical counselor at the Star Treatment Center. I said, wow, I'm going to apply. Now, this was a PRN position, so that means it's as needed. You only work when somebody's not working and they need you to work for them. But it was for the day treatment center, because they also have an intensive outpatient. That's outpatient, but they also have intensive treatment center, which is inpatient, meaning you stay overnight. The patients stay overnight. So I was like, okay, it's as needed. That's fine, because I'm still working, I was still working at the other program at the time, so it would work out. Well, that ended up building to the point where even though I was as needed, I pretty much worked every single day. I think they were starting to just put me there. And even when people didn't necessarily need a day off, they just let me come in and kind of float around. We went through a period when I was working there where even though many of my coworkers around me were losing their jobs, they even shut down one of the facilities. They shut down the facility with the little kids, with the elementary age kids, and they only did the middle and high school group at the actual hospital. My coworkers that were there for years were starting to lose their jobs, but they allowed me to stay. Favor. Because I'm just going along, right? So I'm there, and all the while, long story short, me and my boyfriend, you know, doing things that we shouldn't have been doing in hindsight, I ended up getting pregnant. Mind you, you know, I'm 25 by this point, but the point is we weren't married. So I ended up getting pregnant while I was working for the program. Because in the midst of all of this, I graduated from College of Charleston. Yay! So I ended up getting pregnant, you know, a couple of years later while I was still working at the treatment center. Because I got pregnant, and me and my boyfriend both weren't from Charleston. We were both from like in the same area in South Carolina. We decided to move back closer to be home. Since we knew that we wanted our families to be a part of our son's life and not have to travel far for, like, you know, games and events and all of that stuff. So I wasn't even working at Star MUSC very long until I had to let them know, one, that I was pregnant, because I ended up, this might be graphic, but I ended up throwing up at work because the hospital has this like distinct smell, and I guess the smell would get to me sometimes, and I ended up literally throwing up at work. So I had to tell my boss that I was pregnant. And things started moving quickly after that, because after I told her I was pregnant, not long after that, I let her know that I was going to be leaving. You know, and they were sad and all of that stuff. They even got me a card and gave me money and all kind of stuff, which was so interesting because I wasn't there that long. But my boss, she just kept saying, you know, you got to come back. If you ever come back to Charleston, you know, you can come back here. You know, she was even trying to help me find places that I could work at in where I was moving back to. So anyway, I know this is long. I said I didn't want it to be long, but I'm going to cut it off soon, and I'm going to just have to do a part 2. So transition, let's move on. And I got to cut it short because I got another session soon. I didn't even think about that. So come back home. Well, before coming back home, I started looking for positions. I don't remember exactly how this kind of happened, because we didn't move when I was pregnant. We weren't moving until after I had my child. So anyway, just at some point in the midst of all of this. So I get to when it's time to move back, I've had my son, because we didn't move until he was probably about 3 months old. I pretty much stopped working, you know, and I wasn't working for about 3 months while, you know, after I had him, before we moved back home. And I just was kind of looking at jobs, and I found a job at the school district where I could be what they called a therapeutic assistant. And when I read the description, it was literally like what I had been doing when I worked at as a behavioral interventionist, and when I was working at the outpatient treatment center, working with kids with emotional disabilities, helping them with coping skills, social skills, anger management, all of this stuff in the school setting. I'm like, well, this is perfect for me. And so I applied. They called me the very next day, had an interview, had the job. So going back home, I had a job already, like before I even got there. I was, you know, I mean, as soon as I got back home, I had a job. Now, I'm going to kind of pause right here because I want to kind of, it's already long enough, but I want to kind of ease into this next part. But I want to share how I had a specific idea of what I wanted. I just knew I was going to be a doctor. I knew that I was going to do all of these things, right? And even in my sin, even in my shortcomings, even in my denial, even in my disobedience, I was going one direction and God kept leading me right back over here. I I didn't even know what a counselor was outside of a guidance counselor growing up. Which, you know, that was kind of big for me too in middle school when I was going through my phase of, you know, what I was going through, because my guidance counselors were very instrumental to me. Excuse me. That was even a time when I couldn't like talk to my dad that much because my parents were divorced. That's a whole nother situation. But, so I was going through a lot emotionally in that regard too, because we used to go to my dad's house on the weekends and every weekend and every summer pretty much. But then during my middle school years, it was a period where we weren't able to see him as much. So, you know, my guidance counselors were pretty pivotal in my life. But outside of guidance counselors, I didn't know what a mental health counselor was. I didn't know what a professional counselor was. So it's so interesting because obviously God knows and he knows the plans that he has for us. So even when I thought that I wanted to do one thing and I was going in a completely different direction, not just the doctor thing, but the completely different direction of not, you know, being serious and playing around and partying and all of these things. Even in the midst of all of that, God was literally leading me exactly to where he wanted me to go. And I didn't even know it. For me to start volunteering at a crisis prevention hotline, counseling, because that's what I was, a phone room counselor, to then going to being a behavioral interventionist, working with kids with behavioral issues, to then working as a clinical counselor without I had a college degree, but I did not have a master's degree. I just had an undergraduate degree in sociology at this time, which, let me throw this little plug in there. If you're someone that's going to college, don't feel like you need to have a specific major. Unless you want to be like a nurse or a teacher or something like that, just major in what you enjoy, because at the end of the day, you're going to get a job, or God's going to lead you exactly where you need to be. I didn't need a specific degree, I don't think, for the job that I had, and it was exactly where God wanted me. So anyway, that was just a little side note. So clinical counselor, which led me to being a therapeutic assistant. And are you seeing how all of these jobs led to the next job that led to the next job that was more and more experience in the very thing that I am now qualified to do? So I'm going to pause right there because, like I said, this is already very long. But before I get to the next part, I just want you to see, like, truly, Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, the called according to his purpose. And here I go about to cry. Didn't think I was going to cry sharing this story. Well, I'm sensitive so I'm always crying. But, you know. But it's like, I'm not even at the end yet, but just to see how God had his hands on my life, even from birth, even from those middle school years when I was dealing with peer issues and not getting along with people, you know, all of these things, all of the years of, you know, being talked about because I'm loud and I'm using my voice in an unproductive way, essentially. God was even molding me and shaping me during that phase of my life to ultimately be who he has called me to be. And I didn't see it then, but I just kept going. I wasn't the most spiritual. I was religious, you know, in phases in my life, but it wasn't until around the time that I got pregnant with my son where I really started to really dig into my relationship with God, like really try to have a relationship with him. And it's been growing ever since. But the mere fact that I didn't even have that relationship with him then, I wasn't reading my Bible daily. I wasn't praying daily outside of when I pray for my food and when I, you know, go to sleep at night, or not even that, you know, when I wake up in the morning, like, you know, the regular prayers, but nothing more than that. I wasn't doing those things up till 25, 26. But God was still leading me. He was still directing my path. So I'm going to pause right there. I have no idea if anything in this has touched anybody, because I'm not even at the I'm not even at the peak of the story yet. But I just want you to see just how God has a plan, and he's very strategic with his plan. It may not be what you think it is or what you desire for it to be, but at the end of the day, he knew you before you were in your mother's womb, and he is going to lead you exactly where he wants you to go. Whether you are pressing into him or not, he knows best, and he will continue to lead you according to his perfect plan for your life. So I'm going to end right here. I got about 10 minutes before my next session. I want to, just kind of clear my little mind a little bit. But I'm going to end right here, and I'll do a part 2 picking up on, the last part of this testimony, moving into where I am today. All right. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Bye.